Welcome to Short View Trading. It's Monday, 10th of July, around 9 AM London time. If you're a trader of markets on a 1 to 2 week time frame, a swing trader of equity index futures, what do you need to think about? What matters when you go about making your decision as to how to go about going long or short those equity index futures? That's what we want to dig into in this video. So let's get stuck in. Well, markets are at a critical juncture. They had a very strong June, but in the last few weeks, it looks as though that momentum is starting to slow. We've had tougher weeks. If you look at the S&P 500 key equity indices last week, as we're showing in this chart in front of you now, the performance across the board was negative, pretty much and quite meaningfully. In Europe, it was even more serious. We saw a number of equity indices down 3 or 4%. So a really tough week that we saw across the board last week, which raises the question of where to from here. Is momentum in markets rolling after that strong June, or is something else going on? Is it merely a phase of consolidation? But certainly if you look at a lot of our momentum models, you can see that seems to be the case. So from a global composite momentum type indicator where we look across a range of equity markets across the globe and aggregate them all, the signal is rolling over from a sell signal last week and heading towards the downside. Equally, if you look at momentum in sectors, and within the S&P 500, the industry groups, that model is back on sell, suggesting that momentum is likely to start rolling over from an industry group sector perspective within the S&P 500 as well. And then on top of that, the S&P 500 itself, standalone, its 10-day moving average, the slope of that gives you good insight into short-term momentum in markets that has been rolling, as well as those other two models that we just talked about. So momentum across the board looking toppy or rolling over, suggesting that markets might be shifting into a downtrend. And consistent with that, the price patterns on various key equity markets are quite interesting. Take a look at the Philly SOX. This was, of course, the area of leadership. Nvidia, one of its big stocks, very strong earlier, a month or two ago, driving the markets to the upside. Very strong performance from individual names and the Philly SOX itself. But in the last few weeks, it looks as though it's topping out. It's certainly at a key juncture, having gone sideways for a bunch of trading sessions and that momentum having lost in that index. Or equally, look at the broad Eurostoxx index, which covers a breadth of the European markets, hundreds of stocks basically. You can see since February it's traded sideways, and whilst it was strong in June, over the last week or two it's been pretty weak, and it's right back at the bottom end of its recent multi-month range, so it's at a key support level. So key critical juncture for that index as well. And on top of that, in the last couple of weeks, we've had multiple sell signals from our short and medium term market timing models. We've been talking about them each and every day in the Daily Rag, our publication that comes out early morning London time that updates all those models on a daily basis. But here in front of you now is the short and medium term risk appetite scoring system. As you can see, it generated a pretty clear sell signal in the last fortnight and has started to roll over and move to the downside along with that momentum in equity markets. So to see how we're playing this, please take a free trial to our Daily Rag. Simply click on the link below, or if you're a subscriber, check your emails. Should be in your inbox from this morning around 8:30 AM London time. So what are we watching this week? Well, three key themes. In particular, there's a bit of an inflation theme. We've had Chinese PPI and CPI overnight, but equally in the States, and more importantly on Wednesday, we've got US CPI. So that'll be closely watched. That's a critical data point that comes out later this week. Elsewhere, there's a bit of a China theme this week. In particular, we've got total social financing, monthly lending, money supply data out sometime this week. It's always difficult to know exactly when. And the rumors continue to rumble along that maybe China's going to do a big stimulus package. So keep an eye out for that this week. That's critical. And then finally, it's the beginning of the US earnings season in earnest at the back end of this week, with the banks on Friday, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo and so on, the big banks kicking off that earnings season, the second quarter earnings season. That'll be watched closely as well. So that's it from us. That's your morning market hit for Monday, July the 10th. Thank you for listening. Please do subscribe to these videos on YouTube. Simply click on the subscribe button and like and share on social media, or follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter and or Facebook. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. Trade well.